Welcome to the Monday Monologue. Well, what have you been doing this week? Had 2 days of total downtime, which was kind of nice, but the power went out. So, luckily I've got a nice old Joe Tool wood-burning stove, so I was able to stay warm, but yeah, couldn't do a lot of work in the shop, which was kind of nice to get a little break. Did a little book reading and stuff and just relaxing. But anyway, we're back at it. Obviously, we're recording a video. And we got some projects here. What's in the box? We got a ST70 kit. And thank you, Tim. One of the viewers wanted me to build one for him and is paying me a little bit of labor to assemble this for him, and we'll do it on the channel. And we'll do an unboxing here soon. So that'll be a fun little project. And this could be one of our new top DIY amplifiers, or even spend a little more, you can buy a pre-built one. And as you saw in the previous video, the old 1960 version that I resurrected really tested well and sounds nice. So I think this could be on my list of under $2,000 amplifiers to buy. So that's going to be a fun project. We got a bunch of fab work done on phono stages. I got 10 of these chassis done, about 10 of these boards. I got about 5 of them populated. Going to send these off for powder coating first of the week, and so hopefully by the end of the month we'll have some phono stages for sale. Got a couple already spoken for. It's been a very popular product, and hopefully I can keep the price the same. Might have to bump it up a little bit. Of course, like everything, the parts have gotten more expensive, and so I'm not planning on bumping up the labor that I'm charging to put these together. But I may have to bump the price up a little bit to cover the increase in parts costs. And I'm hoping maybe, $100 might cover the increase in the parts costs since I first, figured out what I needed to charge for these things. So they'll be $9.50 instead of $8.50, which I still think is a bargain. And I know some of you disagree with that. And that's what we're going to talk about on the Monday Monologue today, is the price of HiFi. And it seems to be all over the map. And there seems to be, it's really confusing to me or difficult to understand. There seems to be this group of folks, and I'm not, disparaging anyone, but just an observation. There seems to be a group of people that are really into these $150 amplifiers and the $100 streamers and the, don't want to spend more than $200 on a pair of speakers kind of a group. And, and there's some YouTube channels that'll tell you that these are giant killers, and for $500 you can put together a kit that sounds better than a, $40,000 system, and don't waste your money, just buy this budget stuff. And by the way, here's affiliate links to buy the stuff that I'm saying you should go buy because it's better than anything. And I think there's a lot of hyped up products and stuff in that market segment that have people believing that these little $100 chip amps are going to sound the equal of, say, a $5,000 300B tube amp, that has ISO Tango iron and, really top shelf caps and all that stuff in it, and that this little $100 thing is going to sound better than that, or the equal of it. And then, I see people this was kind of interesting, and I'm not picking on the person that replied to this, but I was showed recently how to put this $80 op amp into this old FM tuner, and it really improved the sound. And somebody replied, well, for $75, that's a really expensive upgrade. And I'm thinking, that's like the cost of 2 or 3 records maybe. How is that expensive? And, I don't want to be dismissive of folks that may have budgetary constraints. And, if you do, you do. But, if you've got disposable income, don't pretend like that you can spend, $100 and get the equal of a $5,000 something, or buy a $300 China tube amp and it's going to sound as good as something that's $10,000. That just doesn't happen. And the other thing I want to respond to while I mention that, I get people accusing me of being like racist or being like, anti-China or whatever. And I'm not. There's a lot of stuff that I buy that comes out of China and it's great. What bothers me is when there's stuff that comes out of China that's got like fake parts in it. And guys, that just happens. And even these little op amps that are the chip amps that people are selling, I hear a lot of people in the comments are like, oh yeah, well the op amps that come in those are fake and you need to put real, Texas Instruments ones in it. And it's like, and then I get accused of trashing made in China products. It's like, if they'd stop doing stuff like that, then I wouldn't have to say things like that's a made in China thing that might be fake. Because there's a lot of stuff coming out of China that is fake. And it's not anything about their country, it's just, or their nationality, or the people that live there. It's just a fact that a lot of people that are exporting stuff there for whatever reason are exporting stuff that just has stickers put on it and it's not the real thing. And it's why when I build these boards, the boards are really well made, and actually some of the resistors are fine, and the solid state stuff seems to work okay, but I don't trust the capacitors. And even if they say Nikon on them, I don't believe that's what they are. They couldn't sell them for what they're selling. They'll sell you the board with capacitors for like $10 more. And the capacitors are $2 a piece, and you can see how many capacitors are on here. There's no way that they can sell them for that. And that's buying these capacitors 100 at a time. They're $2 a piece. So, anyway, put that to bed. Back to the cost of HiFi. So, there seems to be, like I said, this one camp that feels like spending $80 is just a lot of money to upgrade your HiFi system. Like buying some nice interconnects. It's like, oh my God, those world's best cables are $35. I can make some for $10. Or like I was working with one guy on these phono boards, and I was trying to see if I could get somebody to design a board here in the US that was made in the US so that I could like just buy them from them. And he was just insistent on getting rid of all these electrolytic caps, or most of them, because, that's $20. And I'm like, yeah, it's $20. Oh yeah, that's just way too much money to spend. And I don't understand. I just don't understand that mindset. So then, got the other side of the coin. I subscribe to the old paper copy of Stereophile magazine because I enjoy having a physical magazine, and clearly they're marketing this to boomers and older folks that really like, holding a magazine and are used to that. But anyway, I'm looking at the gear in there, and they're like, here's a preamp for $125,000. And then, they're like an $8,000 turntable. And they're saying, this is a budget price turntable. And I'm like, what? And then, here's a tone arm for $27,000. Who's buying a tone arm that sells for $27,000? And how many of those can they potentially sell a year? Like, how many people a year are willing to spend $27,000 for a tone arm, or $150,000 for a preamp? And then, speakers, kind of sky's the limit. Their speakers are several $100,000. And I just wonder, how many of those do they actually sell a year? And maybe I'm not being realistic thinking that $27,000 is a lot to spend for a tone arm. And people would say that I'm being cheap. I don't know. But it just seems like there's one extreme and then the other. It's like where's the Midfi? And I think that's kind of the market that I'm shooting for. Like, I don't think a phono stage that sounds really nice, that's right out of the grand, is a lot of money for a really nice piece of hi-fi gear. Or like my EL34 amp at $2,000. That doesn't seem like a lot of money to me for a handmade, USA product. But then I get people emailing me about my amps, and I tell them, it's $2,000, and they're like, well, I can buy a made in China one for $500. And do people really think you're getting the same thing? Leave in the comments what you think about that. I mean, it just seems bizarre to me. And that this whole mid-fi level of hi-fi seems to be missing. Now, there's a few people that seem to target it, like Techniques with their 100C turntable seems to be targeting that market, and even that 1300G at $3,000, it's kind of in that, I call it a mid-fi market. And then, as far as tube amps, Deckware seems to be hitting that price point, and unfortunately they have like a 3-year waiting list. And I can understand them not wanting to jack up their production, because people don't realize that going from like this level where you've got maybe a small workshop and people are hand fabbing this stuff up, and you've got like your system and you can buy in this kind of quantities and that sort of stuff, is one level. And then if you try to like tenfold the production, like if I had to make 100 of these instead of like making 10 like I am now, I couldn't make these in my basement. I mean, it'd take me a month just to fab up all the chassis. And so I can understand them trying to limit the number of units that they have to deal with a month. And I did just get a pair of speakers from them, and it was like a 3-month waiting list on that, which wasn't bad. And they're nice sounding speakers. We're going to do a review on that. I'm still breaking them in, still kind of getting used to them and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm really happy with those. But anyway, as far as like production numbers from folks like Deckware and stuff, I understand why they're like, yeah, we got 3 years worth of orders. We need to like ship all this stuff out to China and get it mass produced. It's not going to be the same quality, and that's not what people were buying. And people were paying for this hand-built, hand-tested gear that they were sold. And so you can't just change up how you're doing it after people order them. And so it is what it is. So anyway, let me know what you think about that. About like, if you've got any sources for nice what I call mid-fi gear that's, maybe not that crazy expensive stuff, and it's the point where going beyond that is the whole diminishing returns, where you're exponentially spending more money, but you're really not getting a whole lot more. And I kind of feel like that with my Audio Technica OC9 MXL or XML, something like that. It's a really nice moving coil cartridge with a nice stylus. It's like $600, and I think it hits a nice price point. But then there's people that say, well, that's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to pay over $300 for the whole turntable. So, yeah. Anyway, that's kind of my rant for this week. And so what do we got in the near future? Obviously, we got ST70. I want to kind of focus on that for a little bit. And I know some of you are really anxious to see that 6C33C. I don't know why I just don't even want to work on it. I mean, I guess I don't know. We're going to get back to that. I know I need to finish that project up. And I know I need to finish up that 6P1. I don't think that's going to be a big deal, but I need to get some of this production stuff kind of at least in the works, because there's like a 2-week time wait on this powder coating. So I need to get this stuff, done and off, and then we can work on some of these other projects. So we got that going on. The other interesting thing that I'm starting to kind of dive into, or embrace might be a better term, is swapping out gear to get a different listening experience. And like, I've A/B tested a lot of this stuff, and like I've talked about those fine audio speakers versus the Quad S2s, and kind of said that I really like those Quad S2s. Well, the other day, put those fine audios back in my system, and it was kind of a nice change. And I'm starting to think that just because something is better doesn't mean that you can't enjoy other gear that you own. And so I'm starting to just kind of swap in different stuff. And like mainly I listen to my 300B amp, but then I'll swap in my EL34 amp and maybe put some tubes in it that in the past I wasn't that crazy about on a short A/B listening, but spending some time with them and seeing if I really like it or not, or if it's just something different. And so that's kind of a fun thing about this hobby. So don't be too quick to sell something that maybe you don't feel like is the best, because you still might enjoy listening to it. And it's fun just to swap in something different. So that's something I've kind of been doing. Like I said, for the last couple of weeks, I've been listening to those little fine audio F500s. And yeah, it's been really enjoyable. The other thing that I've been struggling with, and I don't know the answer to this, is listening to vintage rock music that I used to listen to years ago that I just don't enjoy listening to anymore. And I feel like that some of that music was designed, mixed, recorded to play really loud. And you go to the concerts and they're really loud. And everything about it is high sound pressure levels. And most of the speakers that they designed to work with that music and the amplifiers were high wattage amps, super loud speakers that really sound like those JBL kind of things that are designed to, crank it up. But I just can't listen to music that loud anymore. Main thing is hearing damage. I mean, I've already damaged my hearing, and if I listen to music at very high sound pressure levels anymore, my tinnitus gets wound up, and I know I'm damaging my hearing. I feel like a lot of that music just doesn't have the dynamic range and the sound when you listen to it at like 80 dBs instead of 95 or whatever, loud would be. And I recently bought supposed to be a really nice copy of Yes 90125, and guys, I think I'm just going to put it on eBay. I just can't listen to it. It sounds thin and tinny, and if I really crank it up, hook up like a push-pull amp that I can really turn up the volume on it, then it starts sounding good. But I just can't listen to music that loud anymore. And part of it, too, may be that my musical tastes have changed, and the reason that I listen to music is different, that I generally like a more meditative type listening experience, and let's face it, you're not going to get a meditative listening experience at 95 dBs in room sound pressure level. And so maybe it's just me getting older. I don't know. I just find myself gravitating to, jazz kind of music, or, kind of that, even the Hugo Kant kind of music that I've turned some of you guys on to. Just, I don't know, it just really is more enjoyable to me to listen to. And maybe I just need to learn to listen to what I enjoy listening to, and just, hey, don't beat myself up if I don't like listening to something that maybe I enjoyed 40 years ago. So that's another fun thing. Comment below if you found the same kind of thing, that either your music tastes have changed, or there's something about just the volume levels of different music, what they require to sound good, and how that's impacted what you listen to. So anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week's Monday Monologue. If you're enjoying this channel, please subscribe. Please like the video. Thanks to all you Patreon supporters. Thanks to all you folks that make donations to my website directly in lieu of Patreon. If you'd rather just say, hey, I'm going to support your channel, giving you a little donation. That works too. Then Patreon doesn't get their cut, but either way, it's nice to have people supporting my channel. Helps me afford to be able to keep doing this stuff. And yeah, we will see you next week for the Monday Monologue.